Okay, this video is going to walk you through how to investigate a parabola equation. The first thing you're going to need to do is use your calculator and graph the equation. So press the y equals button. When you type in this equation, you're going to use the x key. The x key for using variables is right here next to the alpha key. So when you press this button right here, x, it makes this x show up that you see right here. Next, some other mistakes students make is they try to write a minus symbol incorrectly. The minus key is used right here, but some kids use the minus key as the negative and don't do that because it'll make it a completely different equation than you really want to have. So when you actually press the right minus key, 6x and then plus 8, you have the equation in your calculator. The next thing you need to do is actually hit graph. Before you hit graph, why don't you just press zoom 6 to reset your screen to a 10 by 10 screen, because that's what the question over here looks like as we try to make the graph. Now before we try to make the graph, we need to figure out what this point is. That's going to be the first click you make with your mouse on this drawing tool. Now to find that actual coordinate, we have to decide, is that a minimum or a maximum? Well, as this thing dips down, it gets to a lowest point, so that's a minimum. So there's some buttons you're going to press with your calculator to get the minimum point. Press second and then trace, and there'll be an option on there for minimum, which is option number 3. So hit the down arrow on your directional keypad and then hit minimum. To get this actual minimum or lowest value that we call the vertex, you're going to move the cursor over to the left of the lowest point. It's currently saying left bound. Left bound means make sure your cursor is to the left of the lowest point. So press enter. Now move the cursor to the right of your lowest point because it's asking for the right bound. As you can see, it says right bound right here. We press enter again. Then it says guess question mark, hit enter one last time. And then it does the very best it can to tell you what that lowest point is. Now you can see it's not perfect, but it's basically 3, negative 1. Now that's a minimum, okay? So go over your question and then type in 3, or whatever you got for your question, negative 1. Now if your parabola was opening downward, you would have a different looking graph, or you would have a different kind of thing you're solving for. If your graph looked like this, and your parabola was going like this, then you'd be trying to find not a minimum, but a maximum. Keep that in mind as well. But this question has a parabola opening up, as you saw on the original here, so that was a minimum, all right? And then the maximum, if it happened to be an upside down parabola, it would have looked like this. You would have chosen this option for maximum instead, okay? Now, to know something else, that's special about parabolas is that when the parabola that you're looking at is opening up, this thing will never stop going up to a spot and stop. It goes on forever, so therefore it does not have a maximum. The way you answer that question over here is to type in D and E for each of the blanks. So D and E is what you put here. Next, as we're trying to find the y-intercept, some easy buttons to press are simply trace, press the trace key, then type the number 0, and then hit enter. It will read out the y-intercept really fast for you as 0, 8. So with those two pieces of information, 0, 8, and also the vertex or the minimum value, we can now make this graph. So in this question right here, I've got the vertex at 3, negative 1, so 3 over, down 1, click. I just graphed my minimum point. Now I also want to graph my y-intercept. That's at 0, 8. Now if you're not as fortunate enough to be able to have your y-intercept show up on your graph paper, then you're going to have to use a different coordinate off the table. And the table you're going to find is right above the graph key. So press second graph, and you'll see other coordinates you could use also. So as you can see here, I've got another coordinate at 5, 3. If I really wanted to, I could take this second click that I made here and put it at 5, 3, and I will still have the exact same, 5 over 3 up. I'll have the exact same graph that I just showed you that was at the click point of 0, 8. It doesn't matter, as long as you pick off any coordinate off this table here, it'll still give you the same graph. At this point, I would recommend you submit what you got. So hit submit. And then from here, you'll know what's green, what's not, if you did everything correctly or not. Then from here, the x-intercepts. This is a special skill also. You're going to go back to the y equals. In order for you to find x-intercepts, you need a second equation in here that is going to say y equals 0. When you type in y equals 0, that's going to create a line that's horizontal, and it's going to go across the x-axis right on top of it. We're going to press some buttons that help us find out where the line that's on the x-axis, where it crosses with the graph that you see here. So you're going to press second, trace, option number 5 for intersection. So press 5, and then move your cursor over by the x-intercept that you want to find. So I'm going to hit the right arrow here, and let's say I want to find this x-intercept first. Then just press enter, 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 and then it gives you the first x-intercept. I'm going to go over to my blank and type that one in right now as I did my first x-intercept. Mine is at 2, 0. Noticing that I'm writing the whole coordinate for this part of the problem also. Then I want to do the next one. I want to find this other one. Press those same buttons again. It's second, trace, select option 5 for intersection. Oops. And then press enter. And then you're going to move the cursor over by the other x-intercept. So hit the right arrow, for me at least. And then I'm going to be over by that one now, and I'll press enter, enter, enter. There's my other x-intercept. We are now doing most of our investigation of this parabola. We only have one more thing left to do. That's to find the domain and the range. But let me finish typing this in here first, 4, 0, and then that's what that one is. Lastly, when we say domain and range, domain is going to talk about how far left this graph goes and how far right this graph goes using numbers off of your x-axis, okay? Now, from here, how wide does a parabola get? Well, it keeps getting wider and wider forever as you go left and right. So the interval notation for that is going to be parentheses, negative infinity, comma, to positive infinity. Whoops, use lowercase o's to get this. If you press OO, the infinity symbol automatically shows up. That's how you're going to write the domain for a parabola that opens upward, or even downward for that matter, and it's going to go off to the left to infinity and off to the right to infinity. The range is the y values, the values that are used to make this graph that are on this y-axis that go up and down. We list them off from bottom to top. Now at the bottom, this vertex is at 3, -1. But what we talk about is how low is that? That's at -1. So we're going to say this graph, since the -1 is part of the graph, we're going to use a bracket. So it's -1, comma, how high does it go? Well, these parabolas continue to go up forever in this case. So I'm going to use OO, or the lowercase o's, to make the infinity. And then infinity never has a stopping point that you can equal. So we have to then use a parenthesis to show that part there for the right side of our range. We have now completed the full investigation of this problem. After you hit submit, hopefully yours will turn green also, and good luck.